From Ja'Marr Chase to Jayden Reed, this is your wide receiver road guide to winning a championship. Wide receiver is deep this year. If you're not separating your receivers by tiers, you're going to overvalue some players. Jeffrey, kick us off with tier 1.
Right away, sir. Let's begin with the best of the best. Wide receiver tier 1. Ja'Marr Chase.
What happens when the league's highest paid wide receiver plays on a team with no defense? They force feed him the ball. That's what's going to happen to Ja'Marr Chase. Honestly, this one's easy. Chase is in his own tier. The Bengals are built with only the offense in mind. To win games, they're going to have to drop 30. And where do you think those points are going to come from? The Triple Crown winner, perhaps? I have him in a tier to himself. Jeffrey, what are your thoughts on Ja'Marr Chase?
How could they not pay him, sir? He just won the Triple Crown, and judging by that defense, they'll need 30 a game just to stay employed.
On that, we agree, Jeffrey. I say follow the money, but in this case, follow the money, follow the offense, follow the quarterback. Of the best wide receivers in the league, Ja'Marr Chase has the best quarterback in Joe Burrow, who was going to sling that thing. Would it surprise anybody if he threw for 4,800 yards and 40 touchdowns? No. They can't double and triple team him because T. Higgins is on the other side, who's a crazy threat by his own rights. He'd be a number 1 on a lot of other teams if he could stay healthy. And Chase Brown has proven to be a threat in the backfield. He's no Derrick Henry, but you got to respect it a little bit. All in all, this is a powerful offense, and Chase is the ringleader. Draft him with ease. For those of you who don't know, the Triple Crown is when a receiver has the most receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns. That's extremely hard to do. Before Cooper Kupp did it in 2021, it hadn't been done since 2005 and Steve Smith Sr. And he had 5 less touchdowns. Ja'Marr Chase had 127 receptions, 1,708 yards, and 17 touchdowns. He's the safest receiver in football. Draft him. You won't regret it. Had to fix the throw. Let's move on to tier 2, Jeffrey.
Yes, sir. CeeDee Lamb. Justin Jefferson. Amon-Ra St. Brown.
All 3 of these guys are elite, but they all come with a warning label. Justin Jefferson has a rookie quarterback. CeeDee Lamb, both him and his quarterback are coming off of injury. And Amon-Ra just lost his offensive coordinator, so is he learning a new system? What's going to change? All these guys still great. Just got a couple question marks now. Let's give a quick comment on each one of these guys. Is this the year that CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott both stay healthy and dominate from wire to wire? Maybe. When Dak Prescott was in the lineup last year, CeeDee Lamb was wide receiver 4. Without Dak, he was still good, but he was wide receiver 12. He was also banged up. Dak and CeeDee together and healthy, that can win some games. I'm not very concerned about George Pickens. I think that he makes the offense better, and I don't think he's really going to take much away from CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb's the clear alpha. Even though they're saying they're both the number 1, they're not. CeeDee Lamb is the number 1. Also, of these 3, I think Dak Prescott's probably the best quarterback, and CeeDee is the obvious number 1, both in the passing game and the running game, unlike Amon-Ra St. Brown, who Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery can dominate. Speaking of CeeDee Lamb with and without Dak Prescott, I noticed a major drop in his red zone and end zone usage in years where Dak Prescott was hurt. Jeffrey, can you bring up the red zone usage for CeeDee Lamb, please?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. In 2023, CeeDee Lamb was dominating in the red zone. 2024, not so much. He went from A+ to B- in red zone targets. He went from A- to C in red zone touchdowns. That's a heck of a drop-off. It's the same thing for the end zone targets and touchdowns. End zone targets, A+ to B. End zone touchdowns. This is 5 yards and in, people. This is the money territory. In 2023, 5 yards and in, CeeDee Lamb was getting peppered with targets. Last year, it's barely above average. And when you're not getting targets, you're not getting touchdowns. Offense took a step back. I think this year, offense takes a step forward. And even if they don't, Dak Prescott's going to sling it. Any last comments about CeeDee Lamb before I move on, Jeffrey? Thoughts?
Stability is underrated, sir. A healthy QB, a massive contract, and red zone rebounds on deck. Quite the recipe for a WR1 finish.
I completely agree. It's not a sure thing, which is why he's in a lower tier. But don't sleep on CeeDee Lamb. He's elite. And of these 3, I like the quarterback.
Can a rookie quarterback feed the league's most expensive wide receiver?
Yeah, Jeffrey, I think so. And he's not the most expensive. He's the second most expensive to his teammate, Ja'Marr Chase. I do think he is the best receiver in the league, though. So can a rookie quarterback feed the best receiver in the league? Yeah, I think so. I mean, he was getting fed by Sam Darnold last year. Did we think that that was going to be successful? No, I didn't. The man finished as the wide receiver 2 last year. Yeah, J.J. McCarthy's a rookie. I hear good reports. The kid was good in Michigan. Yes, he got injured last year. He got to absorb some information last year from sitting on the sideline. Looking forward to see what the kid can do. I mean, he was drafted in the first round for a reason. I'm giving the rookie a shot. Kevin McConnell knows what he's doing. He'll take care of the rookie.
New OC in Detroit. Will it boost Amon-Ra even higher or break the streak?
I think probably a slight decrease, which is why he's sitting at 4 instead of 3. Amon-Ra St. Brown has finished as the wide receiver 3 in back-to-back years. And he has some of the strongest hands in the league. He's got an A+ in catch percentage for a reason. If you get it anywhere close to this man, he's coming down with it. Man's got good hands. Do you have anything on Amon-Ra?
Change in title, perhaps, but not in targets. The new coordinator would be wise not to anger the gods or the fantasy managers.
Don't anger the fantasy gods. If you're enjoying the content, please like, subscribe. If you have any questions, make sure you hit me up down below. I want to set a like goal on this video. Let's see if we can get to 50 likes. I think 50 is a good amount for this video. I missed it on the last one. We gonna get it on this one. I appreciate y'all sticking around and moving on to the next tier. Jeffrey?
Yes, sir. Malik Nabers, Puka Nacua, Nico Collins, Brian Thomas Jr., Drake London.
This tier is really exciting for me. Every one of these players has crazy upside. Brian Thomas Jr. finished as wide receiver 4 his rookie year. That's crazy. And not far behind him, Malik Nabers and Drake London finished in the top 6. And Malik Nabers, also a rookie. With Tank Dell gone, Nico Collins could explode in this offense. Clearly, dog. This is the last tier where I'm really excited about these guys being my wide receiver 1. It's time to break them down, Jeffrey.
Malik Nabers finished as wide receiver 6 with Daniel Jones. What happens now that he has Russell Wilson?
That's a great question, Jeffrey. I think he balls out. To finish as wide receiver 6 in 15 games, when you got Daniel Jones throwing you the ball, yeah, I'd say that talent wins out. And regardless of what people say, Russell Wilson is a good quarterback. Not great, not elite, but he's a solid quarterback. He still got the moon ball. Now, the question is how long until Jackson Dart takes over? Because that I do not know about. Rookies are not normally great for wide receiver production. And I don't think the Giants are going to be winning very many games, so they probably have a reason to get Russ up out of here and see what the Rook can do. The coach is fighting for his job. Don't forget about that. But back to Malik Nabers. This guy gets heavy targets, and he's elite in contested catches. Jeffrey, bring up his grades.
Yes, sir.
Nabers got a lot of contested targets last year, probably because his quarterback wasn't great. But he came down with a lot of them. A+ in contested receptions. Love to see that. As long as they force feed this man the ball, he's going to dominate in PPR leagues. A+ in targets, A+ in receptions, and honestly, I don't see anybody on the team that's going to be taking away targets from this man. All right, next up.
Puka crushed man and zone coverage last year, but will the Rams finally use him in the red zone?
Jeffrey, that's a great question. I've been wondering that all offseason. Like, what are we doing with Puka Nacua in the red zone? He is a dominant receiver. Jeffrey, bring up his grades. Receiver against man coverage, A+. Receiver against zone, A+. This man is dominating both man and zone coverage. I love that for him. But why are they not getting him the ball near the end zone, where the money is made? Let's check that out. For a man that's an elite route runner, he sure doesn't get used in the red zone. B-, red zone targets. B, red zone receptions. And this is the one that really crushes us. Red zone touchdowns. C. This man is elite at running routes, getting open. And your red zone is a C? It gets even worse when you're close to the goal line. When you're 5 yards and in, C+ in end zone targets, D+ in end zone touchdowns. When they get in close, they're not going to Puka Nacua. That being said, if they did, this man's value skyrockets. He's unbelievably talented. Gotta get those touchdowns up. You know what's not going to help that? Bringing in Davante Adams, a career touchdown scorer. I think the end zone stuff has something to do with Kyren Williams. When they get in close, you might as well run it with him. But still, love Puka Nacua. But my man hasn't had more than 6 touchdowns. I'd really like that to go up. But I love the opportunity. That's why he's this high. Man's elite. Next up, Nico Collins.
Tank Dell's out. So what happens when Nico becomes the guy in CJ Stroud's offense?
That's a good question. I think he dominates. He's that dude. He is a quintessential alpha. 6'4", 215 dog. I love the competition or lack of competition around him. Christian Kirk doesn't scare me. They do completely different things. 2 rookies, Jaden Higgins, which is basically a carbon copy of him as a rookie, and Jaylen Noel, which he's going to be playing more underneath. Clearly, Nico Collins is going to be that dude. Unlike Puka, I'm thinking this man gets double-digit touchdowns. But somewhat like Puka, this man dominates all coverage, man, zone. 2 years ago, A+ verse man. Last year, A verse man. Zone coverage, just flip that. A 2 years ago, A+ in zone coverage last year. Good luck stopping this mammoth of a man.
Bay Nation, it's a Nico world now, and touchdown season is open for business.
I agree with that, Jeffrey. It's his world, we're just living in it.
How many rookies finished WR4? Brian Thomas Jr. is just getting started.
Oh, I definitely agree with that, Jeffrey. Almost 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns. Count them, 10 of them things. As a rookie? And he was banged up. Most of the time he did work. He was with Mac Jones. He didn't have Trevor Lawrence, who I think is objectively a much better quarterback than Mac Jones. Though Trevor hasn't been great, I think Trevor takes a step forward. I also think having Travis Hunter on the other side is going to help. This offense, I think, is going to be pretty good. They stole our offensive coordinator from the Bucs. Liam Cohen is their new head coach. I think that this offense is going to take a step forward. And if they do, Brian Thomas Jr., man, he is about to be a problem. I am slightly biased. I have both Brian Thomas Jr. and Trevor Lawrence in my dynasty team. But it's like my dynasty team number 3. I like it. I'm excited about it. But it's not like the squad. I just wanted to give you a heads up. He really popped off towards the end of the year last year. Weeks 13 through 18, he was wide receiver 2. That's awesome. And if you're worried about Travis Hunter taking targets away, I'm not. Too many people have left. There's too many vacant targets. Gabe Davis, gone. Christian Kirk, gone. Evan Ingram, gone. There's a bunch of vacated targets. There's plenty of targets to go around. Plus, I think this offense is going to be slinging it. Moving on.
Drake London was wide receiver 5 last year and now gets a quarterback who actually throws deep.
Yeah, it's going to help not having Kirk Cousins back there. You're actually going to have a quarterback that can sling it downfield. Also, his 4-game pace with Michael Penix was actually better than it was with Kirk Cousins. So I'm optimistic that it gets better moving forward. And it was good last year. He was wide receiver 5. I mean, it helps when you dominate contested catches. The rookie can throw it anywhere in your general direction and you'll probably come down with it. I also love his red zone usage. His contested catches will help him get the rookie to trust him in the red zone. You see how I blended that together? Professional at work. On to the next tier, Jeffrey.
Yes, sir. A.J. Brown, Lad McConkey, Tyreek Hill, Rashee Rice, Mike Evans, Jaxon Smith-Njigba.
These guys all have huge upside, but that comes with more questions than previous tiers. Whether it's age, target competition, or changes in the offense. I love these guys as wide receiver 2s, but they're not quite as stable on a week-to-week basis as I'd like. Let's jump into it.
How do you project a wide receiver who might not even play in the fourth quarter and still go for 1,400 yards?
That's a great question, Jeffrey. A.J. Brown is used to being in a tier or 2 above where he is right now, but there's so many mouths to feed now. Their team is so good that sometimes they're not playing at the end of the game. Plus, to get them to that dominant point, he's not really the focal point anymore. That would be Saquon Barkley. He is the engine that makes the Philadelphia Eagles go. A.J. Brown is an absolute beast if you target the ball to him. I still think he probably gets 1,400 yards. He was on track to get that last year before he got hurt. And he does have an elite number 2 in DeVonta Smith. I'll be getting into him later, but DeVonta Smith ain't nothing to play with. I just think he's going to be a little more boom bust than he has been in the previous years, just because are they going to need him to be that dominant dog that he is? Now, don't get it twisted. Jeffrey, bring up how he plays against man and zone, because this man is still a dog. For the last 2 years, A.J. Brown has dominated both man coverage and zone coverage. So regardless of how you're lining up against him, he's going to get the job done. The question is, how often is the team going to need him to get the job done? And how often is he just going to be chilling on the bench with a 15 to 20 point lead? It's really not about him. It's about how much they need him. I mean, heck, I even love his quarterback. But when the quarterback gets close, he's going to probably push it in, not give A.J. Brown a nice fade for a touchdown. It's not the talent. He's got the talent. It's the opportunity. Anything else on him, Jeffrey?
So when your second half is a victory lap, I'd say the boom is still booming.
I think that's fair. I just think it's less consistent. Because is he the one that got them to the point where they could sit down? Or was it a Saquon Barkley touchdown? Or a Jalen Hurts rushing touchdown? Or did he sling it to a previous Heisman winner in DeVonta Smith? If he wasn't the one that got you to the point where they're sitting on the bench, you're not going to be happy about it. Argue with your mama. Moving on.
Will Lad McConkey stay the top target, or will this Chargers offense shift to the run?
That's a great question, Jeffrey, because I think these coaches love running the ball, and they just didn't have the team to do that last year. Respect to Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, but they're not really great running backs. I think that changes this year. Not only did the team bring in Najee Harris, but they also drafted a first-round running back in Omari Hampton. So I think the team definitely starts leaning towards running the ball more than they did last year. But that being said, I think that Lad McConkey is probably going to be the lead dog in the receiving game, at least to start off the season. The team also drafted a wide receiver, Trey Harris, in the second round, and I don't think they just give him the keys. I think Lad McConkey is going to be a solid underneath receiver, thinking kind of like a Keenan Allen light. I was impressed that he had 1,150 yards as a rookie. I think Trey Harris will be a factor, but it doesn't make me really concerned about Lad McConkey. Maybe concerned with his ultimate upside because he's not the only receiver, plus they want to run the ball more. What I am a little concerned about is how they use him in the red zone. I would really like him to get more involved. Jeffrey, let's check out his red zone and end zone grades, please.
Yes, sir.
So let's start off with the good. Red zone, this is 20 yards and in. Red zone touchdowns, B-. That's the best grade he has in the red zone. The problem is he's doing that on very low red zone volume. His red zone targets are set at D. That means they're really not going for him in the red zone. Now add Najee Harris, Omari Hampton, and Trey Harris, and I'm not really seeing that go up substantially. Could it go up? Yeah. Could he go from a D to a C? Sure. But he's not just going to start dominating the red zone. And it's the same thing with the end zone targets. End zone is 5 yards and in. B- in end zone touchdowns. That means he is getting touchdowns in the end zone. But D+ in targets. That I definitely don't see going up substantially. Again, could it go to a C? Sure. I just don't think he's going to turn into an A+ end zone target person, adding running backs and wide receivers to the squad on a team that definitely wants to run the ball. I think he can be really good, but without a lot of touchdowns, your upside's kind of capped. Moving on.
Did Tyreek Hill actually fall off, or was it all just Tua's concussion fallout?
That's a good question. I'm leaning towards Tua. I know that a lot of people are talking about Tyreek Hill like he's kind of not that guy anymore, but I disagree. I think he fell off because Tua Tagovailoa fell off. I think the concussions caused him to be out and also caused the team to be more cautious when he got back. They weren't really slinging it down the field. They're trying to get the ball out of his hands really fast. Tyreek Hill ran in a track meet recently and ran a 10.15 in 100 meters. That's not a sign of a guy who's lost it. He's still very fast. I was talking to my dad, who's a track expert, and he was like, yeah, Tyreek Hill still got it. He could possibly break 10 seconds in the 100 meters later this season. That man sounds super fast still. So the question is, will they get the ball down the field? I think they do, because they need to be a good offense. It was embarrassing last year. Embarrassing. If Mike McDaniel wants to keep his job, they're going to have to start winning some games. You're not going to win games dinking and dunking with the fastest roster in the league. Tyreek Hill is called the Cheetah. Jaylen Waddle, also very fast. Devon Achane, fast. You have some of the fastest receivers in the league, and you're throwing it to Jonnu Smith. No shade at Jonnu Smith, but when you got those other options, what are we doing here? Let's put some grades to this so you can see what I mean. Jeffrey? Let's check out targeted QBR. This is how accurate was the quarterback throwing to you. 2023, A-. Dropped down to a C+. We got scrubs thrown at this man. Just straight mid. Everything was down last year. Targets, A+ to B-. Receptions, the same. Yards, touchdowns, both went from A+ to C+. And this one's really interesting. Yards per route run, A+ to C+. That means before, every time my man was running a route, yards, sending it. The whole offense just fell off. And of course that tanked his fantasy value from A+ to C, pretty much across the board. It's awful, awful. I think he bounces back. I can't imagine that the Miami Dolphins are actually willing to have that gross offense that they had last year. You're not going to dink and dunk with this offense, or you're just going to get rid of these players and change your whole team. They're not built to play how they were playing last year. They're built to sling it. So let them sling it. And yeah, I'm scared about Tua's concussions too. But he's a grown man, and he's decided he's going to play. So if you're going to play, play. Because this ain't going to win games. I think the Dolphins bounce back this year. I think they sling it. And by bounce back, I don't mean win playoffs games. That's years and years and years ago. I mean bounce back being not trash to watch. They're still not winning that division. Moving on.
Was Rashee Rice's breakout real, or just a flash before the injury?
I think it was real. As a 3-game stretch can be. They wanted to hand him the keys. They were like, here, Rashee Rice, take us to the promised land. He was wide receiver 4 through those 3 weeks. Now, mind you, that's a tiny sample size, but he was wide receiver 4. He was averaging almost 10 targets a game. I think it was down at 9.6. He has such an unfortunate injury. Patrick Mahomes ran into his knee, causing his knee to have a torn LCL ligament. But he should come back and be fine. I saw him working out the other day, looked pretty good. I do get a little nervous about players coming back from injuries, especially knee injuries. Do they trust it? Because if they don't trust their knee, then they're going to be compensating for the other side, and that's never good. Especially how Rashee Rice plays. He's always been super elusive. Jeffrey, bring up his yards after catch data, please. This man dominates yards after the catch. A+ back-to-back years. Yeah, I know he only played 4 games last year, but the year before that, still A+. The question is, can he get back to this? I think so, but I am concerned about a slow ramp up. That being said, his game is not him running deep. His game is dominating zone coverage. So I think he can still dominate zone coverage, and that would leave him open, which means he should be able to get those yards after the catch. I think the team wants to lean on him more than they want to lean on Travis Kelce, who's getting older, and they need to save him for the playoffs. Xavier Worthy, who's super speedy, but reminds me more of Deshaun Jackson. You're not really trying to have him be the engine of your offense. And Marquise Brown is a solid receiver. I just don't think that he's as good as Rashee Rice, to be honest with you. Also, they play kind of different. He's more of a speedster, whereas Rashee Rice is going to be, I think, the possession receiver for this squad.
If his knee's healthy, sir, Rice might remind everyone who was supposed to lead KC.
Yeah, I think that he might, assuming he's healthy. All right, on to the next one.
Will this be the year Mike Evans finally doesn't hit 1,000 yards?
Yeah, right. Please. It's been 11 years straight. If there's anything I know, Mike Evans is getting his 1,000 yards. Death, taxes, and Mike Evans getting 1,000 yards a season. Guaranteed every year. So you can book that. There's not many receivers you can just, he's getting 1,000 yards, period. Another thing that makes it even more impressive is he gets stacked touchdowns on top of that. This man owns the end zone, period. Jeffrey, can you bring up his touchdown grades, please?
Yes, sir.
Mike Evans has had an A+ in touchdowns 4 of the last 5 years. From a number standpoint, he's had 11 or more touchdowns in 4 of the last 5 years. So he's probably going to get you 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns. Love to see it. Love to see it. The only real question mark for Mike Evans is how many opportunities is he going to get? Because he's not a crazy high opportunity kind of guy. And now we got Chris Godwin. Though he's coming back from injury, I think he's going to be a big part of the offense. Emeka Egbuka, who is a first-round draft pick. They're going to use him. Not really concerned about Jaylen McMillan, but I do think he's going to get some targets. And then in the running game, you got Bucky Irving, the new hotness for running backs, and Rachaad White isn't just going to go away. He'll still get 30 to 40 receptions. So it's really how many opportunities will he get? I still think that Baker Mayfield is going to feed the big dog. I think Mike Evans is going to have another solid year. Give him 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns. That's what you're drafting with him. Honestly, one of the safest receivers. You know what you're getting.
Sir, If Mike Evans ever doesn't get 1,000 yards, I suggest we check for a glitch.
I agree. That mess is crazy. Every year? Wild.
With a new coaching staff and fewer mouths to feed, the stage is set. But can JSN finally break out, or will the hype remain just that, hype?
I mean, I feel like you could say he broke out last year. He was a top 10 wide receiver. It just didn't feel that way. He had like a 4-game stretch where he balled out, but started off super slow and then got hotter towards the middle and end of the year. But I want to see some more consistency from the young blood. But the team made a lot of changes. New offensive coordinator, Geno Smith, gone. Replaced by Sam Darnold. Is he good? Is he not good? I don't know. He looked great last year. Was that the coach putting him in perfect positions? Can he still get into JSN? Both DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are gone, so now he's the guy, right? Cooper Kupp off of a down year isn't going to come in and be the dude. So Cooper Kupp's the number 2. JSN's the number 1. Honestly, I think it's really interesting because I think Cooper Kupp is going to teach JSN a lot about being a wide receiver because Cooper Kupp played that position at the highest of heights. The man got a triple crown. I think he'll teach JSN a lot, which I know that's not really what they brought him there for, but I think that actually is going to accelerate the process of JSN getting better faster. I have him as wide receiver 15 right now. If he could put it together and be more consistent and get back into the top 10, I'd feel a lot better about it, but there's a lot of question marks here. I think that he definitely has upside, but I don't trust him more than I trust these other dudes. It's really what it comes down to. But the upside's there. He could be that dude. I won't be overdrafting him, though. All right, Jeffrey, let's do tier 5.
Yes, sir. T. Higgins, Davante Adams, Marvin Harrison Jr., Garrett Wilson, Terry McLaurin.
These are all great wide receivers. I'd love for them to be on my team. I'm happy to draft them. I'd prefer them not to be my wide receiver 1, but they're solid wide receiver 2s, and all of them have great upside. Let's break down this tier.
Can T. Higgins finally stay healthy and become more than just Chase's sidekick?
That's a great question, Jeffrey, and probably not. Can he get into the top 12? Yeah, he can. Has he ever? No. He's going to need high touchdowns because he's not going to get the targets that Ja'Marr Chase is going to get. He was great in the touchdown department last year. He had double-digit touchdowns for the first time in his career. For him, it really comes down to health. Like, the guy's got to stay on the field. He's missed 5 games in back-to-back years, and I think his team is taking that into account in his new contract. Check this out. This is the fine print of T. Higgins' contract. Annual per game active bonus. $117K per game, but that adds up to $2 million. Long story short, T. Higgins gets $2 million if he stays healthy all year. I think that's a pretty good incentive for him to stay on the field. He's one of the best wide receiver 2s in the league. And I love that he has Joe Burrow throwing it to him. I think you can confidently draft T. Higgins, and he definitely has upside. And oh my goodness, if anything happens to Ja'Marr Chase, T. Higgins is going crazy. All right, let's talk about Davante Adams.
Can Davante thrive as the wide receiver 2 on his best team since Pete Green Bay?
Yeah, I think so, Jeffrey. Davante Adams still has it. The man's a beast. He's not as dominant as he used to be, but he's still a creative big body wide receiver that's going to get used in the red zone. His touchdowns have been low in the last 2 years, but I blame that on quarterback play. The man has a track record to dominate in the end zone, and I don't think that's gone away. Matthew Stafford should be able to bring that out of him. Davante Adams has had double-digit touchdowns 6 of the last 9 years. I think he has a solid chance to bounce back. And yeah, I do think this is the best team he's had since 2021 on the Green Bay Packers. Because 2021, he went to the Las Vegas Raiders. They've sucked since they had him. 2023 Jets, it was all bad. Well, mostly bad. He actually balled out in fantasy for the Raiders his first year, but it kind of fell off after that. It was mostly due to touchdowns. All right, on to the next one.
Was Marvin Harrison Jr.'s rookie year a disappointment or just the wrong expectations?
You know, that's a great question. I'm going to go with bad expectations. People were drafting him in the first round. And I get it. I disagree, but I get it. Highly drafted wide receiver. I'm pretty sure he went in the top 5. You got Kyler Murray throwing you the ball. The best receiver is a tight end. So people thought he was going to come in and just get peppered with targets. I still don't really understand why that didn't happen. I don't understand why he wasn't the focal point of the offense. But he had almost 900 yards and 8 touchdowns. That's pretty good for a rookie. Not pretty good for a person you drafted in the first round, which leads me to say, y'all overdrafted him. And I say y'all because I was not drafting that man that high. I didn't have him in a single league because he went in the first round in all of my leagues. First or early second. But still, way too early. Why weren't they targeting their star wide receiver? That still doesn't make sense to me. Jeffrey, let's check out his grades.
Yes, sir.
Love the enthusiasm. In what world is a wide receiver drafted in the top 4 get a C+ in targets? How are you not peppering this man with targets? What's the point of getting him on your team if you're not going to feed him or feature him? What are you doing? To give them a little credit, when they got 5 yards and in towards the end zone, A- in end zone targets and A- in end zone touchdowns. So they at least were getting in the ball 5 yards and in, but what about the rest of the field? The field is mad long. You giving him the ball 5 yards and in. There's a whole 100 yards to use. You know that, right? Throw the kid the ball. Scheme him to get open. Don't use him as a distraction. It's ridiculous. All that being said, he didn't do himself any favors in the elusive category because this man was not elusive. F in avoided tackles. D- in yards after catch. F in yards after catch per reception. The man was not elusive at all last year. So you're not getting a bunch of targets. And when you get those targets, you're not getting away from people because you don't have a lot of yards after catch. But at least when they're giving it to you towards the end zone, 5 yards and in, you're cashing in. They got to make him not touchdown dependent this year. Last year, you were probably only happy when he got touchdowns. That's not what you want from your top flight wide receiver. I think that he takes a step forward this year because I like their offense. Kyler Murray's good. He's a solid passer. Also, big year for him. Pretty sure this is a contract year. Trey McBride is trying to be the next Travis Kelce. The dude is elite. And James Conner somehow keeps getting it done in his old age. I think that this offense takes a step forward, and if the team can get more creative with their play calling, I think that Marvin Harrison Jr. should take a step forward. Don't make me look dumb, Marvin. On to the next one.
New quarterback, new head coach, no Davante. Can Garrett Wilson thrive in a whole new system?
Yes, maybe? Thrive is a complicated word. By thrive, do you mean could he be a wide receiver too? Yeah, I think he'll be a solid wide receiver too. So the new quarterback in Justin Fields doesn't terrify me, but it doesn't excite me. I'm not optimistic that his touchdowns are going to go way up with Justin Fields. Also, Justin Fields is going to run the ball more than Aaron Rodgers did, so he's going to keep the ball in his hands more. But in regards to the new coach, I'm a fan of the new coaching situation. Why? He had a real nice quote the other day. Somebody asked him about Garrett Wilson, and he said, give him the ball as much as possible. Get him involved as much as possible. I'd love to hear that from a person drafting Garrett Wilson. And they should. He's clearly their best receiver and probably best offensive weapon at this point. Breece Hall, I need you to step it up before I call you the best player on this team. I'm going to give it to Garrett Wilson for now. Garrett needs as much help as he can get. He barely gets over 1,100 yards a year. Never had more than 7 touchdowns. For him to move up any tiers, those touchdowns got to go up. You got to get more than 7 touchdowns, and that was a career high. He's barely at 1,100 yards, too. 1103, 1104. He's a really talented wide receiver. That catch he made last year where he drug his shin, that was wild. Man, hit the Jordan pose, catching the ball. Crazy work. All right, on to the next wide receiver.
13 touchdowns last season. Was that real or just a red zone hot streak?
I want to say that that's probably not real. Could it happen again? Sure. The likelihood is just not very high. Last year was his best year in touchdowns by far. I mean, we're talking the last 4 years hovering between 4 and 5 touchdowns, then pops up to 13. Now, there is an obvious reason for this. Jayden Daniels is the best quarterback he's ever played with in his entire career. So, obviously, he's better. 13 touchdowns? I'm not banking on 13 touchdowns. I think his touchdowns are definitely going to be higher than 5 and 4. I'm currently projecting him for 9, but I'm not expecting to see another 13 touchdown season. The team also just added Deebo Samuel, who I think will get some work, which will take a little bit of work away from Terry McLaurin. He's talented enough to get it done, but I just think it's less of a sure thing and more like a maybe. And that's it for Tier 5. Moving on to Tier 6. And Jeffrey, let's speed this up a little bit. These are deep level breakdowns we got going on here.
Yes, sir. DK Metcalf, Courtland Sutton, DJ Moore, DeVonta Smith, Jameson Williams.
This is a solid wide receiver tier few of them are wide receiver 1s on their team, and a couple talented wide receiver 2s.
DK hasn't had 10 touchdowns since 2021. Rodgers hasn't thrown for 30 since 2021. Can they both bounce back in Pittsburgh?
Bounce back as in they both start dominating again? Probably not. DK could get 10 touchdowns. I think I got him at 9. He moved from Seattle to the Steelers, and I think his situation is slightly better. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is much better, if at all, better than Geno Smith. Not anymore, at least. There's no wide receiver 2, so he is that dude. The team's going to run the ball, play good defense, and DK has an opportunity to be that dude. The question marks leave him in tier 6 for me. I'm curious to see how training camp goes, if I can get any extra news. They did just pay him a fat contract. He's the 4th highest paid wide receiver in the league now, so they should be feeding him.
He scored 8 touchdowns with a rookie quarterback. Will Bo Nix's second year push Sutton even higher?
I think it's closer to the same. I don't know how much higher he could go. He finished as wide receiver 15 last year. That was pretty good. Maybe one more touchdown. But I really like what the Broncos are doing. Bo Nix should take a step forward. I actually think that he was a great rookie. I like that they added Pat Bryant. I think that they needed more receiving help. But I think they're going to spread it around a little more. They drafted R.J. Harvey, so he's going to be running the ball. And Evan Ingram isn't there for no reason, so he's going to get some touches as well. I think if Courtland Sutton finishes in that range he finished last year, then that's really great. Wide receiver 15, pretty solid. They love to use him in the red zone and towards the end zone, but he's really not the most elusive wide receiver. So touchdowns is probably where he's going to get his bread buttered. What's next?
DJ Moore led the Bears last year, but with Rome, Burden and Loveland joining, is there enough volume left to stay elite?
No, there's not. DJ Moore's had one season in the top 12. Finished 6th. That was awesome. 2 years ago with Justin Fields. Other than that, he's a wide receiver 2. And not a high-end wide receiver 2. Normally, we're talking 17 to 22. It's about where he sits. And that's probably about where he'll end up. There's a lot of mouths to feed. Even if this offense takes a step forward, I think Caleb Williams will be better. But you already got Rome on the other side. Now you're adding Luther Burden and Colston Loveland, who you drafted in the top 10. I don't see where the upside could come from. Caleb Williams ain't throwing 5,000 yards. So I think I got him in the right spot, about 23. Next.
He's the wide receiver 2 in Philly. But if A.J. Brown breaks down, could DeVonta Smith finish top 10?
Maybe, but honestly, A.J. Brown would have to miss most of the season, and I don't foresee that happening. This offense is just not built for DeVonta Smith to be top 10. They want to run the ball. Saquon Barkley is one of, if not the best running back in the league. If you're not utilizing him, you're doing it wrong. And when they get in close, they're going to use Jalen Hurts because they have a quarterback that can squat for 600 pounds. So the team, I don't think, wants to dominate in the air. I think if they had to, they could. I think DeVonta Smith will be up and down. DeVonta Smith is probably the top 3 wide receiver 2s in the league, talent-wise. He's just not getting the opportunities. I think that DeVonta Smith will be a solid receiver. I would prefer him as a wide receiver 3, but I think he'd be a good wide receiver 2. He's going to give you some boom weeks. If something does happen to somebody on the team, like if, Lord forbid, Saquon goes down or A.J. Brown goes down, DeVonta Smith will definitely vault forward. The talent is there. It's really just the opportunities. That being said, DeVonta Smith and A.J. Brown have both finished in the top 10 in the same year. That has happened. I don't think it will happen because Saquon Barkley's there now, but it has happened. So it's not impossible. It's just unlikely.
Will the Lions finally unleash Jameson Williams or keep treating him like a gadget player?
I think he gets unleashed. Not unleashed like he's going to get Jamar Chase level targets or Amon-Ra level targets. But I definitely think the team realizes that he is a very talented receiver, that they need to get more involved. They drafted him high for a reason. You can't always leave the Ferrari in the garage. Sometimes you got to take it to the track. I think they're still going to use him like a gadget, but I think they're going to use him downfield. But what he really needs is to be used in the red zone and the end zone, because how they have been using him is not good. Jeffrey, bring up his red zone and end zone targets, please.
Yes, sir.
His red zone targets, receptions, and red zone touchdowns, C to C minus. That's not good. He's never been a player that's utilized in the red zone. And it only gets worse in the end zone, where the red zone is 20 yards and in. The end zone is 5 yards and in. Now, they definitely not using him 5 yards and in. And this actually makes sense to me. If you have Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery at running back, why would you throw it to a speedster wide receiver? I get that. I hear you. But can we get it to C? Can we get a little something? So will he take a step forward? Yes. I think that they get him more involved. And he's a game breaker. He can win you weeks. Honestly, he'd be incredible for best ball. I think that he's going to be a solid receiver to grab. They're talking about him very positively and thinking about different ways to utilize him. So I definitely think he's worth a draft pick. I just don't see him being in like the top 12 of consistency. I definitely think he'll be winning you some weeks though. All right, Jeffrey, moving on to tier 7.
Chris Godwin, Cooper Kupp, Jakobi Meyers.
You're hoping for a bounce back with these guys. All three of these guys were either banged up or limited by their circumstances last year. Volume could be there, but age, injuries, and new roles make these guys risky bets. I'm gonna be honest with you, these guys could be on the move depending on how training camp goes. Most likely down, unfortunately.
Godwin looked his best since 2019 last season, but can he bounce back again after another injury? And with a rookie threat now in the mix?
This one's a big maybe. There's a couple of factors here. Number one, coming back from injury. I don't know if y'all remember last year, but I remember him getting injured in the Baltimore Ravens game and dislocating his ankle. It was gross. Now, you couldn't see it, but ankles aren't supposed to go that way. So I've seen him recover before, and he's recovered slow in the past, but this is a different injury. I'm not sure what he's going to look like. So that's big for training camp. I'm curious to hear what the beat reporters are going to say about how he's moving, his involvement in the offense. And then the second thing, Emeka Egbuka, guy drafted in the first round. I think that if Chris Godwin is fully healthy, Egbuka takes a step back and just learns from the vets the first year. I do think he gets involved more as the year goes on. So Chris Godwin doesn't have the highest upside that he had last year. He was wide receiver 2, weeks 1 through 7. Homie was balling last year, and then he got injured. So 2 questions. Does he come back healthy? And how much is Egbuka involved? Also, does this team just pass more now? That's also a possibility. I got him at wide receiver 26 for now, so he's a wide receiver 3. We'll see how camp goes to see if he goes up or down. Next receiver, please.
Yes, sir. Is Cooper Kupp still fantasy relevant, or just a name we remember fondly from 2021?
Oh, man. I want to say that he is still relevant. I'm going with still relevant for now. Again, this is another one where I want to hear what's going on at camp. Did the team bring him in just to teach JSN how to run routes better and get open? Or is he really going to be the wide receiver 2, possibly wide receiver 1? Let's be honest, he's wide receiver 2. Are they going to feed it to him? There's only 2 receivers on the team that matter at all. It's him and JSN. Now, I know that the coaching staff wants to run the ball, but Kenneth Walker barely can stay healthy. I think that Cooper Kupp is going to be solid. And you're getting him here at a wide receiver 3 rate. In the draft, he's going in the middle to back of the 8th round. I feel like that's kind of wild. I know we're 3 to 4 years removed from his triple crown, but an 8th rounder is real tempting. Again, I'm going to have to see what happens in training camp. How does he look? How involved is he going to be in the offense? But right now, I don't have enough information to put him up, and I feel weird dropping him down past tier 7. He's a wide receiver 3 for me right now. Also, he got a 3-year, $45 million contract, which sounds great. It's more like a 1-year. They can get out pretty easily next year. Contract's worth $17 million, dead cap only $8 million. Honestly, if they want to, they can get rid of Cooper Kupp after next year. So I think that this is not a contract year, but kind of a contract year. Like he needs to play well so that he can keep playing on his contract. He gonna want that 17 mil. Who knows how long this man plays for? Also, there's a big discrepancy between man and zone. He used to be great against both man and zone, but in the last 3 years, he's not been great against man. I'm talking D+, D, D- against man, and pretty solid against zone. A+, B-, B. He can still get it done against zone. Man coverage not great, but he's probably going to be wide receiver 2 now. At least I think so. So maybe he doesn't get the top corner. If he doesn't get the top corner, maybe those grades go up. But I really think he's going to get there based on volume. Volume, and I think he can still get open. Maybe just not against cornerback ones. What's next, Jeffrey?
New coach, new quarterback, new weapons. Is Jakobi Meyers still the Raiders wide receiver 1, or just a bridge to Bowers?
Yes, he's the wide receiver 1, because I don't believe Jack Besh is going to take the wide receiver 1 position from him. But he's not the number 1 pass catcher. That is Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is the number 1 pass catcher on this team. He's a dog. So Jakobi Meyers is the number 2 pass catcher on his team. And this team has been completely overhauled. New head coach in Pete Carroll. New quarterback in Geno Smith. Definite upgrade. So yeah, you're not the number one, but you have a better quarterback, better offense. You finally have a run game. Now you have Ashton Jeanty, this absolute beast of a man. Not in stature, but in speed and agility. He's not a big guy, 5'8". But I think he'll be a solid wide receiver 3 for you. I think he's a fairly good value because he's still going to be the number one wide receiver, which you're not going to get many number one wide receivers after this. I think he's solid. All right, Jeffrey, let's move to tier 8.
Zay Flowers, Tetairoa McMillan, Chris Olave, George Pickens, Jauan Jennings, Xavier Worthy.
There we go. This is a mix of youth and the unknown. We got youth, Zay Flowers, Xavier Worthy. I could throw Chris Olave in there. Young receivers that we're hoping we get some growth from. And then the unknown, like Tetairoa McMillan. He's never played an NFL down, but he's the number one on a team. This tier can get interesting. Let's break them down. Start with the first one, Zay Flowers.
What's a wide receiver worth in fantasy if he's elusive, electric, and never used in the red zone?
That's a good question. From a fantasy standpoint, if you're not scoring touchdowns, your receptions have to be crazy high. And Zay, you're not scoring and your receptions aren't high. Let's dig into this one, Jeffrey, because I feel like everybody has different opinions on Zay Flowers. And let me just show you how I'm seeing it. His targets are slightly above average, a little over 100 targets. Got him at a C+. But when it comes to receptions, he's only getting 74 and 77. That's not a lot of reception. Let's check out his red zone work. Red zone targets, receptions, touchdowns, D+, D+. And when they get 5 yards and in, I mean, you got Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. 5 yards and in, I totally get why you're not going to give it to small Zay Flowers. That's why he has a C- in end zone targets, 5 yards and in, and D+ in end zone touchdowns. You're not getting the ball there. So he's going to need more targets and more valuable targets because the kid's talented. Let's check out his elusive ratings. A to A+ in avoided tackles. B+ in yards after catch, but yards after catch per reception is A-, which is honestly more valuable for him because he doesn't get a lot of receptions. So of course he has an A-. But he is an elusive player. For him to be more fantasy relevant, they need to get the ball in his hands more and he needs to score more touchdowns. Touchdowns are up and down, but he hasn't had more than 5 in his career. That's not going to get it done. So if you're drafting Zay Flowers, you are drafting on his potential to get more involved because right now, he's really not that involved. He's really not involved enough to be like a wide receiver 2. His upside is capped until they get him more involved in this offense. But it's only his second year. He could get more involved. Just need to see it. Kid's talented. Moving on to the next one, Jeffrey.
Can a rookie step into a wide receiver 1 role on a bad offense and still be worth starting in fantasy?
Yeah, I definitely think so. A rookie wide receiver stepping in being fantasy relevant? Absolutely. The question is, will this wide receiver step in and be fantasy relevant? I say yeah. I think he'll be a flex play. Bryce Young showed that he was going to take a step forward at the end of last year. I think that he continues moving forward. He's the clear number 1. Adam Thielen, I think, will still be there and still be relevant, but I think they want to get the rookie involved. They did draft him in like the top 12. He doesn't really have much competition. I'm not really afraid of Xavier Leggett, so he's clearly the number 1. I think he should be solid. Plus, he might be a solid value in drafts. We'll see where the ADP ends up. Moving on.
What do you do with a wide receiver who's elite on film, but stuck in a system that never scores?
You draft with caution. And you make sure you don't rely on him. You can't rely on Chris Olave. The kid's incredibly talented. But oh my gosh, has he had his trials and tribulations. I'm honestly really concerned. Chris Olave has had 5 concussions that we know about. 4 of them have happened in the NFL. That's a lot of concussions. And they've been brutal. Like I just remember, I can vision them in my head right now. They've been brutal hits. Not illegal, per se, but Derek Carr was out here leaving this guy high and dry, throwing him into traffic. And now he has a rookie quarterback who, yeah, that guy might be 25, which is old for a quarterback rookie, but he's still a rookie. So I'm not overly confident that he's going to be able to get him the ball. Is he going to get him the ball safely? And will this team score points? They're probably going to be the worst team in the division, but they really need Chris Olave. They need a alpha wide receiver that can come in and do work. But I'm nervous about him staying on the field. And on top of that, he doesn't have touchdown upside. The most he's ever had is 5. That's so blah. So for him to pay off, you need him to stay on the field, a rookie quarterback to play well, and for his touchdowns to go up. I'm not overly confident in that, to be frank. But like I said before, there's not a lot of options on the team. If the kid can stay healthy, he could PPR himself to fantasy relevance. Because, like I said, he's really the best one. He should get a lot of work. I just don't know if he's going to stay on the field. Talent's there. We'll see if he can stay on the field. Next one, Jeffrey.
He's always had talent, but will a new team and better QB finally unlock George Pickens?
Yes, I think so. George Pickens has never been a wide receiver 2 in PPR. And half PPR is more valuable because he doesn't catch a lot of balls. He does go from being a wide receiver 1 to a wide receiver 2, but he has a huge upgrade in quarterback. And on top of that, CeeDee Lamb is going to take most of the coverage away from George Pickens. Plus, they do 2 completely different things. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what George Pickens can do in this offense. I don't subscribe to that 1A, 1B stuff on this specific team. There's a clear 1, and that is CeeDee Lamb. And then there's a number 2, and that's George Pickens. In my opinion, the only way that it's 1A and 1B is if those targets are anywhere close, and I don't expect them to be very close. CeeDee Lamb will get the most targets, and George Pickens will still get a decent amount of targets, but I think that they'll be very valuable targets. I don't think that he's going to be an underneath kind of player. I think he's going to get down the field and get some work. He'll probably have career highs in touchdowns. The most he's ever had is 5. He's broken 1,000 yards 1 time. Honestly, this is probably going to be the best year of his career. And he needs it because it's a contract year. He wants to get paid. You know how you get paid? You ball out, baby. George Pickens dominates deep. And Dak Prescott should be able to get it to him down the field. I think that's really going to change this offense, having a real down-the-field threat. You got to watch out for George Pickens. He can do some work. He's a little wild up here, but he can do some work. Moving on to the next one, Jeffrey.
Yes, sir. Is Jauan Jennings a temporary fill-in or a legit fantasy option while Ayuk gets healthy?
I think it's a legit fantasy option. You see where I have him ranked. He's not crazy high in my rankings, but I definitely think he's going to be valuable this year. Brandon Ayuk is banged up, and we don't know how he's going to start the season. Deebo Samuel is literally gone. So it's really just Jauan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall. And yeah, I know Ricky Pearsall was a first-round draft pick. I'm sure he gets involved. But this offense needs playmakers. And Jauan Jennings has proven that he can catch the ball. I got him as an A+ in contested receptions, meaning when you throw the ball up to him, if there's a guy there, he gonna come down with it. That's awesome. Why would you stop throwing it to that guy? I'm not saying he's top 12. Shoot, he's not even in my top 24 here. But can he be a wide receiver 3? Yeah, I think so. Now, I am curious to see how they're talking about him versus Ricky Pearsall during camp. So stay tuned. He could be moving up, could be moving down. These are my early receiving rankings. So this is before training camp. Once training camp happens and we see or hear anything from the beat reporters, eventually we're going to get preseason games too. Then things are going to start heating up. But as of right now, yeah, give me the guy that actually produced last year. On to the next one, Jeffrey.
Yes, sir. Speed's great. But will Xavier Worthy see more than just gadget plays in year 2?
Yeah, I think so. The head coach, Andy Reid, likes to bring his rookies up slow. He doesn't like to just throw them into the fire. So just like he did for Rashee Rice the year before that, he brought him in slow and then eventually gave him more work as the year went on. That's the same thing that happened with Xavier Worthy. He started off slow and then over time they gave him more work. Now, I don't think that the team wants him to be the pivotal part in the offense. I think that Rashee Rice is going to be the number 1 on this team. But I do think they want to get Xavier Worthy involved in creative ways. I mean, he did have 9 touchdowns last year. That's a lot for a rookie, especially a rookie like him, like a speedster, not like a big-bodied contested catch guy. And Patrick Mahomes does want to sling it more. I mean, they were just embarrassed on the last game of the year where they couldn't put up any points. This winning by 3 stuff throughout the year, I think they kind of want to win by a little bit more than 3 now. I think that they actually want to have not just a great defense, but a great offense to go with that great defense so they can actually be in some shootouts. You don't want to have to flip the switch on in the Super Bowl, not having to flex those muscles throughout the year. I think that they come out flying. But it's not just Xavier Worthy. I think that Marquise Brown is going to come in and do work. Assuming that Rashee Rice doesn't get suspended, I think he's going to do some work too. Travis Kelce wants his revenge because he has a bad taste in his mouth after getting embarrassed on national TV in front of his girlfriend and the rest of the world. I see him dominating yards after catch per reception, and I think that he's going to be used in creative ways. but I don't think that he's like going to be a 150 target kind of guy. But he's proven he can get in the end zone, which is very valuable. And he's super fast, obviously. All right, Jeffrey, let's end off on tier 9.
Yes, sir. Jaylen Waddle, Khalil Shakir, Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, Jordan Addison, Jayden Reed.
All of these guys can definitely finish higher than this, but they've got some real red flags. Whether it's crowded rooms, quarterback questions, or inconsistency, you're drafting upside and really hoping that the chips fall into place. Let's start with the first one, Jaylen Waddle.
Can the Dolphins get back to the high-flying offense that made Jaylen Waddle a fantasy star?
I really hope so, and I'm banking on it, honestly. Now, even if they get back to high flying, is Jaylen Waddle going to be the dude? No. That's obviously Tyreek Hill. No matter what happens, Tyreek Hill is going to be the number one on this team. I mean, I guess unless Jaxon Smith comes out of nowhere again and just dominates. But back to the subject at hand. I think the Dolphins are going to take a step forward because last year was super embarrassing. Super embarrassing. They were trash. With and without Tua. I broke down some of the information on Tyreek Hill's profile, but I don't think they want to play like that again. I think they're going to find more creative ways to get the ball in their stars' hands, and Jaylen Waddle is one of those. I mean, last year was ugly. He dropped in most metrics, but long story short, I think that they go back to a higher flying offense and stop dinking and dunking. I think Tua's going to want to sling it. Also, I think their backups are going to be better and more prepared this year, just in case. So if Tua does go down, I think that they should be able to have a mediocre to solid offense instead of that hot garbage we got last year. I mean, it was hard to watch. Let's move on to Khalil Shakir.
Is Khalil Shakir quietly turning into Josh Allen's WR1?
Yeah, I kind of think so. I mean, he did lead the team in targets last year. As you can see, he's the highest rated wide receiver that I have on the team. I just don't think that Keon Coleman stepped up. Yeah, I know that he was a rookie and he had some issues. I think he was banged up, as well as I don't think the coach really believed in him as much last year. I also think that Khalil Shakir is a solid receiver. He's got some major pros and some major cons. Jeffrey, let's check out his grids.
Yes, sir.
Khalil Shakir dominated in elusive ratings last year. A+ in avoided tackles, yards after catch, and yards after catch per reception. Shooting yards after catch per reception, he's dominated his whole career. Now, it's not all roses. Yeah, he's elusive, but they really do not utilize him in the red zone. Red zone targets, receptions, and touchdown is in the D range. That's bad. For such a high-powered offense, I would at least expect some C's. And when they get in really close, he's definitely not involved. D- in end zone targets and F in end zone touchdowns. End zone is 5 yards and in. So 5 yards and in, they really not going to this man. Which makes sense because you have a dominant quarterback in Josh Allen who's going to run in a bunch of touchdowns. And James Cook did have like 16 touchdowns last year, so touchdowns had to go somewhere and it wasn't the receiver. That being said, for him to be a viable fantasy option, that red zone and those end zone targets got to go up. All right, Jeffrey, on to the next one.
Could Cam Ward actually be an upgrade for Calvin Ridley, even as a rookie?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's not like he had a good quarterback before. Will Levis is hot garbage. He is bad at quarterback. The man takes way too many sacks. Cam Ward is the number one pick for a reason. I personally am not in love with him from a dynasty standpoint, but he'll be better than Will Levis. And Ridley's biggest competition is old Tyler Lockett, so I'm not really afraid of that. Plus, I think they do different things. So he should be the clear number one with an upgraded quarterback. But what does that actually mean? Rookie quarterbacks don't normally come into the NFL and just light it up. So I don't have crazy high expectations, but he is the number one and he does have an upgrade. He'll have some decent weeks. And Ridley may be an older receiver, but clear number one on a team that's probably going to have to throw it to stay in games. You could do worse.
Did Jerry Jeudy finally break out, or was it just a second half hot streak?
You know, he definitely broke out. The problem is the reason he broke out is gone. Is he going to stay out? Last year, after Amari Cooper left and Jameson Winston took over, he exploded because he was looking terrible at the beginning of the year. Weeks 1 through 10, he was wide receiver 50. Weeks 11 through 18, he was wide receiver 4. He had the first 1,000-yard receiving year of his career. That's awesome. But who's throwing him the ball? If it's Joe Flacco, I'm a lot more excited than if it's Kenny Pickett, who I've never seen him keep anybody fantasy relevant. Same thing with Dylan Gabriel, a rookie, 3rd rounder, or a 5th rounder, the most talked about 5th rounder I've ever heard, Shedeur Sanders. The only one I'm confident that Jerry Jeudy has a chance at being really relevant, it's Joe Flacco. And even if Joe Flacco starts off the year, you better be ready to trade Jerry Jeudy because Flacco ain't playing the whole year. They have to see what they have in those rookies. So yeah, it's not great for Jerry Jeudy. Too many question marks, but the upside is there. He proved last year that he has the talent. He just needs somebody to sling it. Will one of these quarterbacks be one of those guys? It's up to you. Looking forward to hearing more in camp who's going to be starting. Moving on.
Double-digit touchdowns 2 years in a row, but can Jordan Addison survive J.J. McCarthy?
Maybe. I think he's going to be really inconsistent. I just don't feel like double-digit touchdowns is sustainable because Justin Jefferson's going to get his. And if those touchdowns go from 10 to 7, still a good year, but those double-digit touchdowns put you in a different category. I like J.J. McCarthy. I think that he should be solid, but he's still basically a rookie. He's not a rookie, but he's basically a rookie. He played no real NFL game snaps last year. And now he has to beat Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and T.J. Hawkinson. These are all dudes that are going to expect the ball on a winning team. This team won 14 games last year. Yeah, they got bounced early, but they won a lot of games. So are they really just going to let McCarthy air it out? I don't know. I do believe in the head coach. So I do think the head coach can get them in order, but I'm a little nervous. Also, the elephant in the room, his legal trouble. My understanding is he could get suspended for some off-the-field activities. He got in trouble with the police. I believe it was a DUI. He fell asleep in his car while he was drinking. Allegedly, I don't know any of the specifics, but I do know that he's facing a possible suspension, looking like probably a 3-game suspension. But that's looming over his head. If you're drafting early, I'm probably not really drafting him, mainly because I don't know where he'll land. I don't know if he'll get suspended. But the closer we get to the NFL season, the more we will know and the more comfortable I will be of picking him up later in rounds, most likely. Moving on to wide receiver 40.
Will Jayden Reed settle into consistency or keep dragging us through a fantasy roller coaster?
I'm going with roller coaster. The Green Bay Packers are telling him that he's the guy, and that's cool. I think that's great. But there's so many guys. So you got Jayden Reed, Christian Watson, who I'm not sure his health situation, but he's still there. Romeo Doubs. And they just drafted Matthew Golden in the 1st round. Oh, wait, they drafted another wide receiver, Savion Williams. Oh, wait. Isn't there another receiver? Dontavian Wicks. Oh, yeah. How could I forget about Wicks? And you know they like to throw it to their tight end, Tucker Kraft. Okay, so he's the number 1. Cool story, bro. What does that actually even mean? Being number 1 on a team where I can list 5 wide receivers is outrageous. This was going to come down to draft stock. If his ADP is low, might look into it, but he's up and down. But that's what happens when you have so many mouths to feed. This is another one that was tale of 2 halves. Weeks 1 through 9, wide receiver 7. Weeks 11 through 18, wide receiver 59. Don't expect consistency from him. This is a roller coaster. He could be the number 1 wide receiver in a week and then outside the top 40 for 2 weeks and then pop back up to wide receiver 2. That was the first 4 games this season. Number 1, outside the top 40, outside the top 40. Number 2 overall wide receiver. That's crazy. And I don't see the consistency changing much. You got too many mouths to feed. Talent is there, but are the targets going to be there? Now, in a year or 2 from now, some of these receivers may be gone. So from a dynasty standpoint, there's a world where 2 or 3 of these receivers go, and then there's just 2 left, maybe 3. Then we can talk about consistency. When you got like 4 or 5 wide receivers that all are probably going to get playing time, yeah, he's the number 1, but how much does that matter when you're splitting the pie 5 ways? Woo! That was a long top 40, but I wanted to give you good detail on all these players. These are all basically a bunch of little player profiles blended into one video. So let's go over the tiers one last time in nice little recap format. Top 40 PPR wide receivers by tier. Tier 1.
Jamar Chase.
Tier 2.
CeeDee Lamb. Justin Jefferson. Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Tier 3.
Malik Nabers. Puka Nacua. Nico Collins. Brian Thomas Jr. Drake London.
Tier 4.
A.J. Brown. Lad McConkey, Tyreek Hill, Rashee Rice, Mike Evans, Jaxon Smith-Njigba,
Tier 5.
T. Higgins, Davante Adams, Marvin Harrison Jr, Garrett Wilson, Terry McLaurin,
Tier 6.
DK Metcalf, Courtland Sutton, DJ Moore, DeVonta Smith, Jameson Williams,
Tier 7.
Chris Godwin, Cooper Kupp, Jakobi Meyers,
Tier 8.
Zay Flowers, Tetairoa McMillan, Chris Olave, George Pickens, Jauan Jennings, Xavier Worthy,
Tier 9.
Jaylen Waddle, Khalil Shakir, Calvin Ridley, Jerry Jeudy, Jordan Addison, Jayden Reed.
Who do I have too high and who do I have way too low? Let me know down in the comments. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and the notification bell down below. If you have any questions, hit me up. If you want to see the breakdown on running backs by tier, just like you got on this one, click right here. I'll see you later, Bay Nation. Peace.